So welcome to Afternoon Express. I'm Bonnie Mbuli. Welcome back, my genius. It's so lovely to have you back.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, South Africa. Happy Hump Day. My name's Jeannie D. It feels like I haven't been here.
I know,
forever.
we've missed you terribly.
You know, somebody actually asked me a while ago, no, so what are you doing today? I said, no, nothing, it's the cricket. They said, you don't work when there's cricket on. I was like,
That's why we love cricket.
I don't like cricket, yeah.
I love
anyway, today we're going to be chatting about something that affects millions of people across the country. We're talking about ADHD.
Yeah, we're joined by author and ADHD specialist, Helena Bester, who's going to unpack this disorder for us and look at the treatment options available.
We're also going to be having a look at ADHD statistics in South Africa, as well as how you can manage it if you've got a problem with it with your children or your partner. Now, somebody who's going to be listening very intently to this conversation today is Danilo.
I'm definitely going to be listening in completely for this conversation. Welcome to the Afternoon Express viewers. My name's Danilo Acquisto. It's really cool to be with you in the kitchen today. Today, obviously, we're joined by our chef resident in this loft. His name is Clem. Pedro. Now listen, I'm so glad to have you back because I've been cooking with so many other different chefs. I thought at one point that you and I had beef or something.
No ways.
Good, because I hear that we have beetroot today. Beet, not beef. Okay, so what are we making in the kitchen today, Clem?
Okay, so we're talking ADHD in the kitchen today as well. So I've created a dish specifically for kids because we can't give them extra sugars. You know, that's not exactly what they need. So I've created a dish using no sugars.
Ooh, yummy.
Called chickpea fries and no-mato sauce.
No-mato, so what is it then if it's no-mato?
The beet.
Okay, so it's a beetroot. I heard actually a joke not too long ago from one of our crew members who told me a joke about beetroot. Can I tell it
I'm
to you?
worried. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm ready.
What did the beetroot say when he went to the party?
I don't know.
Let us turn up the beat. That's obviously what they say. If you want to get no terrible jokes but good recipes, go to our website, afternoonexpress.co.za. There you can also find the shopping list for this delicious recipe we're making on the show today. It's all about Health Week right here on the show, and I hope you can cook along with us right here on Afternoon Express. Let's kick off this Wednesday afternoon on the couch.
As mentioned before, we're joined by author and ADHD specialist, Helena Bester, and she's going to be talking to us about this disease and unpacking it for us. Welcome to the loft.
Thank you very much. I enjoy being here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So what is ADHD?
ADHD, Bonnie, is actually a neurochemical imbalance in the brain. So it's not just a vague condition that one can attribute to any child that's slightly energetic or naughty or whatever. There are actually clinical differences in the brain, and there are a set of criteria according to which the diagnosis is made.
Do we know what causes this?
It is mainly hereditary.
Wow.
And certain brain diseases can cause it as well. But the average ADHD child that the average teacher will meet in the classroom, you will find that one of the parents or both of the parents will have the condition as well, or the grandparents.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do I know when a child has ADHD? How can a parent tell?
Normally the first information, the first noises will come from the preschool teacher.
Okay.
The preschool teacher is going to say things like, this child is daydreaming, can't sit still while the stories are being told, tasks are incomplete,
Right.
The child is disruptive in the class, and so on. And they will generally suggest that the parents have the child evaluated, and very important that before diagnosis is made, that evaluation will be done by a specialist to determine that those symptoms that are present, if they are not because of any other condition, and whether the symptoms are age appropriate, etc.
Right. How can we tell the difference between, how do I know if my child is just hyperactive or if they actually have ADHD? And are they quite closely related? So what are the clinical differences?
That is a very important question, Bonnie. If we look at the 18 criteria that indicate that are symptoms associated with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, many of those symptoms are actually age appropriate to a 4-year-old. So it's very important that when the diagnosis...
Completely age appropriate?
Most of them to the highest population of 4-year-olds, yes.
Wow.
But we also get children that are more introverted and they have lower energy levels and so on.
Okay.
And they won't stand out as the energetic type and that people will think they are hyperactive. But we don't only have the hyperactive and impulsive type ADHD, but also have
Okay.
the inattentive type. And the inattentive type, they are overlooked very easily and quite often. But important that it will be a professional that makes the diagnosis.
Wow. What other options are there in treating ADHD? I mean, what happens when a parent just thinks their child is hyperactive, they can't deal with it, and they think, I'm just going to medicate my child? I mean, are there like really horrific consequences to that?
Firstly, the treatment options. I'm so glad to have the opportunity to share some thoughts about that. That is my second most favorite thing in the world to talk about. That is neurofeedback therapy, which fortunately is no longer an experimental treatment. It is now officially, in October 2012, been rated by the American Association of Pediatrics as a level 1 treatment. It is non-invasive, and that's why personally I find it so attractive.
Okay.
And it involves basically training the brain and organizing the disorganized brain. And it involves placing certain electrodes on certain placements on the head, and the child sits in front of a screen, and it's almost like a game that he plays with his attention, and there's visual feedback and auditory feedback. It is a conditioning process, and the learning happens. It's implicit learning. It's almost automatic, the same way that one learns to ride a bicycle. The brain registers everything that it is changing, and after repetition, that becomes the new way of functioning.
And does it have a high success rate?
It has a very high success rate. Practitioners generally speak of 80% plus. Personally, maybe it's a little bit arrogant. I believe that if one is not successful in the treatment, then you are not busy with the correct protocol.
Wow. And medication, parents sitting at home saying, oh, I'm not so sure about medication, others saying medication works perfectly, and others saying it's terrible. What would you say to that?
Bonnie, when I was more courageous and younger, I would make drastic statements like medication is good for teachers. I have learned, however, through the years to accept that stimulant medication definitely does have a place. And the negative feedback that the child gets constantly if he has a severe case of ADHD, one has to weigh the consequences of the medication. And sometimes medication is essential, necessary, and it can work very well, but also very important that it will be monitored, prescribed in a responsible way.
Yes.
And that the teachers won't put extreme pressure on the parents to take medication. And that, unfortunately, is something that is happening in our country.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how does ADHD manifest itself in adults?
The symptoms for diagnosis are exactly the same.
The same?
Yes. The three main groups of symptoms, it involves inattentiveness, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. But typically, if we look at the average adult, we will find the adult has problems with in his relationships.
Yeah.
And he has problems in the work environment. And typically, they are forever pursuing something. It's almost as if they are never satisfied and content. So partners get frustrated because there are all these projects that have been initiated and nothing gets followed through on. And if we look at the work environment, often they are the people that are overlooked for the promotions because they are irresponsible, they're forgetful, they lose things, they are late for appointments, they have very poor planning and organizational skills. And Renate is going to be talking more extensively about ADHD in adulthood, and it's so important that there's focus on that at this point, because previously it was mainly on the children.
Okay, thank you so much, Helena. Very insightful. So remember to tweet us at Afternoon Chat using the hashtag Afternoon Express, or comment on our Facebook page if you have any question for our experts. Now, today, we're giving away copies of Helena's book, New Hope for ADHD in Children and Adults, a practical guide. Simply SMS the keyword books, your name and city to 33728 now. SMSs cost R1.50. T's and C's apply and can be found on afternoonexpress.co.za. After the break, we get healthy in the kitchen with an alternative to potato chips, chickpea fries, and we're going to be chatting to Dr. Renate Schoeman about the statistics of ADHD in South Africa in adults. Stay right there, don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Express
A warm welcome back to Afternoon Express. So in the kitchen this week, we're trying to go this whole healthy route. And today we're focusing on the show on ADHD, particularly in children and in adults. And we always thought that reducing the amount of sugar we're feeding our children is a great way to go. And so Clem is showing us a delicious recipe that we're making on the show today. You can make it too with us at home. So today's recipe has got technically less sugar than other types of sugar. So what are we making?
We're using natural sugar.
Okay.
And it's a spin on like...
Fructose.
There we go.
Sucrose.
And it's a spin on classic chips and like tomato sauce.
Yum.
We're making chickpea fries with a no-mato sauce.
Okay.
No-mato because there's no tomato in there. We need to counteract that bitterness with sugar.
Yes.
And we're getting the natural sweetness from the beetroots.
Lovely. It sounds delicious. And I'm keen to get cooking with you because I haven't got my hands dirty in a while. All the chefs like to do their own things. So
I'm going to give you lots to do today.
Cool. Let's
Promise.
do it.
So we're using chickpea flour.
Okay. Never heard of that in my life.
It is amazing. It's got even if you smell it now, it's got a natural
Ooh, yes.
nutty flavor to it.
It's warm.
It comes with vitamin B6, iron, potassium, magnesium, and it's 6 times higher in protein than normal
Sheesh.
flour.
You had your phone out. You were on Wikipedia,
What?
weren't you?
I'm
I
getting
know
all
you.
the feed into my... Yeah, no, I'm not joking. Okay, so the first thing is get your water simmering.
Okay.
Essentially, all you really need is chickpea and water to make our type of porridge, which is the base of the chip.
Okay.
Sounds strange?
Does this
Hang
come in a box, by the way? I don't know. Can you buy this
It
in any
does.
sort of store? I've never seen this in my life
Chickpea
before.
flour is
Chickpea
becoming
flour.
more commercial now, so you can get it in normal supermarkets.
It's like a banting option for a lot of people who are not wanting the flour, or like a wheat-free.
Slightly, yeah.
I see.
Especially because it's higher in protein. But traditionally it's called Shana flour. And it's cheap. It's really cheap. I mean, I think you pay something like $20 for 500
Oh, my
grams.
word. Jeez, that's amazing.
It's
Okay.
crazy. So I've added some Cajun spice. Kids, a little bit of heat, they're not going to complain. It's fine. Little salt, actually quite a bit of salt, because I won't say a crazy amount, but chickpea
Chickpeas are
flour
quite
needs
bland.
a bit of that extra
Yeah,
flavor.
they're quite bland.
So
You're allowed to say
pepper,
that.
salt, Cajun spice. Just give it a mix in your bowl and add it to your simmering water, and you can start stirring.
Voila.
So what happens is this turns into a type of porridge, and you have to cook it cook some of the moisture out.
I can smell all those flavors immediately.
You
It's just
can,
that like
yeah.
sort of like curry powder.
So you cook it till it becomes a thick porridge. All that excess moisture cooks out. And you see, how's it looking? Yeah, it's looking good. So I'm gonna let that go for a bit. What happens is, once it becomes really thick, just grease the inside of any bowl, pour it in there, and you put it in the fridge. And what you end up with is this guy.
Oh, something like this.
And it kind of sits, right? If you think like polenta, that's a good way. Look, it has to cook like a thick polenta, because you know polenta.
Yes, I know. Polenta, see.
And then you pour it into the bowl, let it sit in the fridge for about 2 hours.
Okay. So you
it
wanted
looks
to
crazy.
get it quite thin because you have to cut it into slices,
Yeah.
I assume. So you're going to want to make sure that your bowl is not like a small little bowl that fills up to the top.
And it's also going to take longer to sit if you fill it up all the way. So
Okay,
keep it
quite
thin.
a nice flat dish.
So I'm going to ask you to start slicing chips of anywhere.
Okay.
Go on the long. Keep them
I'll
long.
go on the long.
So while you do that, I'm going to pop this to this side.
Cool. And what do you... Oh, I thought you were putting something in the pan there. No.
I'm going to
okay.
soon. So pan on the heat. And we're going to cook with coconut oil today.
Yummy.
I mean, we used it earlier this week as well.
I was asking you off air what that was. I'm so glad you explained it to me because I would have described it as like some kind of shoe polish or something. When it came out, it didn't look like anything. So
Okay.
that's just obviously when it's not been warmed up or whatever. That's
It
what
is.
the comes looking
So let me get this part off the heat. Let me move everything over to the side. So, okay, so coconut oil, we love it, but it's a saturated fat, so we still don't go crazy with it.
Yes.
Let's
But
get
it's
that
a
heat
healthy
on.
fat because one of those ones, I mean, they put in the same sort of bracket as avocados and olive oils and things.
And they
but
call it the
obviously-
good fats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just ultimately not too much, otherwise you are going to get yourself
Okay.
into slightly trouble.
It is. So I'm just going to use my hands. They're clean.
Go for it, yes. So mine, so it's all cool.
Get them into the pan, in the oil. Let them start searing off. Be careful because what happens is they start searing and they seal on the one side, and you think it's like firm enough to handle, and they actually end up breaking.
Yeah.
So maybe like use your tongs and then kind of just like secure it with your other fingers, not burning.
Yes. Don't burn them because the pan also doesn't feel like it's going to be charged. It's not going to completely splash back at you.
Yeah.
Cool. Can I add one more?
You can.
Is there space for... Oh,
What I also like doing is I add them like at a slight angle.
Okay.
There we go.
Give them a
How's
bit
it
of
looking?
shape.
There we go, and they actually cook in that shape.
Delicious. So that's basically the idea of you set your kind of pastry which you've made. You're now just sort of heating it up and getting it that nice crispy on the outside sort of flavor.
Keep on turning it around.
Oh.
And what you end up with is these guys on the
Ta-da!
end.
Okay, I'm not going to lie to you because it might look okay like this, but it's all about the taste. So later on, I'll make sure I have a good taste of it, and I'll tell you whether he's lying to me, whether these are actually delicious like they are like fries with your no-mato sauce. And I'm guessing we're making the no-mato next.
In part 2.
Fantastic. So if you guys want to get this recipe on the shopping list, it's on our website, afternoonexpress.co.za. It's Health Week. All those delicious, healthy recipes are available for you on that website. Also download the shopping list if you want to go to the shop soon and get all of those ingredients. Jeannie's on standby on the couch.
Thanks, Danilo. Now, in a study recently conducted by psychiatrist Dr. Renate Schoeman, it was revealed that more than 1 million South Africans between the ages of 20 and 50 are affected by ADHD. To speak to us about the effects and solutions, joining us on the couch is Dr. Schoeman. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, with the statistics of adult ADHD being so high, what are the chances of misdiagnosis or just people not being diagnosed at all?
It's actually quite high. We cannot give you exact figures. We recently conducted the first South African study just to try to establish how big the problem is in South Africa. And there's two big things that's obviously hurdles for us here. The one is lack of knowledge, lack of awareness of the disorder, especially that it's something that transitions into adulthood. You don't miraculously outgrown it by the age of 18.
Yeah.
And then secondly, funding. So obviously in a restricted resource environment like in South Africa, where a lot of patients don't have access to proper diagnosis or care, they are not diagnosed. They don't have access to diagnosis. And then firstly, when they are diagnosed, especially in adult ADHD, they often don't present with complaints of inattention or hyperactivity. They present with the complications, such as substance abuse or marital problems or anxiety disorders or depression. And then it's often that is being treated, but the actual underlying condition is missed.
And, I mean, this is so mind-blowing because usually children with ADHD could grow out of it, but then other people don't grow out of it and then stay being, with ADHD. Is it a mental disease?
Yes. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder. Now, we don't have to go into details to say what it is, but it's real. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what we find is often in childhood, people become aware of it and presents with a classical busy child or the daydream or whatever. But then if you look at the statistics, that roughly 5 to 16% of children have ADHD in their school age years.
Yeah.
So if we work on 5 out of 100, of that 5, 3 will still have ADHD in adulthood. Now, our brains can develop. They are able to mold as we age and as we practice skills. Of that 3 that still have ADHD in adulthood, maybe only 1 need medication in terms of severity of the disorder. Because the other 2, in adulthood, we can choose lifestyles and careers that suit us. You have a specifically brilliant environment for it because there's a lot of stimulation, there's a lot of novelty. So people with adult ADHD can make career choices and they do not necessarily will fulfill the criteria for full-blown ADHD anymore or something that necessitates medication.
Is it something that you would have always had, or could you grow into becoming ADHD?
No, you can't. It is it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. So you can't suddenly in adulthood just acquire it out of nowhere. If you then took a careful history, there would have been a childhood history. But again, a lot of people are unaware of the symptoms. And also, depending on your generation, you might have just been marked as a naughty child and not be aware. And then adults are only diagnosed when their children are diagnosed and they become aware, but that's exactly how I was when I was young.
Then everything makes sense. Like, that's why I struggle to concentrate and that's why I, couldn't get a job, or that's insane. What is the quality of life like for an adult with ADHD?
Quality of life, it's affected in the various things. I think what's the worst outcomes is a life of perpetual failure, where you have a brilliant individual, but they just never achieve. There's problems at work, there's problems at home. If you look at research, they attain 2 years less of education. There's more job hopping, there's frequent absenteeism, they're more prone to accidents. The medical costs are double if you don't treat it. If you treat it, it's much less. Just want to come back to your previous question, what you said about can you develop it in adulthood. Often patients will present and they said, doctor, but I have problems with concentration. Now that does not equal ADHD as well, because depression can impair your concentration, Sleep deprivation can impair concentration, anxiety, and then technology. We are notoriously bad these days at managing our technology. So you can get technological-induced ADHD, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, I saw a study recently where usually like in my peer group when I was at school, we could concentrate for about 40 minutes. That level of concentration has now been reduced to the new youth being 3 minutes.
What's even worse, if you look at statistics as well, the average adult is interrupted 42 times in a given hour by our cell phones or our computers or our emails. Now, you can't be effective at work then. So a crucial part of ADHD is not only medication or all the other things that we need to do, but it's lifestyle management and learning that coping skills and strategies, how I can make life easier for me if I know that I'm already more prone to distraction.
Exactly. So what do people do? What do adults do once they've been diagnosed with ADHD? What is the solution? Is it medication or, like you just said now, lifestyle management?
We cannot force someone to take medication, and medication is never the only answer. I tell my adult patients exactly the same when I tell what I tell the teenagers. I can help with medication that can improve the problem, but it's your job to sit on your bum and study.
Yeah.
Okay, now for adults, I can say the same in the sense of we do have medication available. This is the pros and the consequences. And technically, it's safe and it's good and it's a gold standard. But you still need to look at how you manage your lifestyle. You need to exercise 5 times a week. It improves your concentration with 20%. You need to be mindful. You need to look at your diet. You need to make sure that you get enough sleep to avoid substances. At the same time, therapy is crucial, especially cognitive behavioral therapy and social skills training, where we teach the patient practical management also at the workplace. Employers should have more education as well, because there's things that need to change in a work environment.
Absolutely.
Open plan offices is not great. You get noise reduction headphones. There's all kinds of strategies that you can do.
There's so much more I want to ask you, because I think those statistics are horrifying, and I think maybe a lot more people maybe have ADHD than what we know about. But we're going to get back to you in a little while. Thank you so much for coming through to see us today. After the break, we're joined by psychometrist Dawn Ellingson to learn how to deal with a child or partner who lives with ADHD. If you have any questions for our experts on ADHD, then tweet us at Afternoon Chat using the official hashtag Afternoon Express, or head over to our Facebook page. We might read your questions live on air a little bit later, but for now, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, live on SABC3. Now, today we've learned all about ADHD and how it works in both children and adults. But what about teenagers? So we're joined by psychometrist Dawn Ellingson, who works with teens and young adults with ADHD on a regular basis at her practice. Welcome back, Dawn.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you back with us
Lovely
again.
to be here, Bonnie.
So is it possible for children to grow out of ADHD as they become teenagers? Are there tools that they can be given?
Okay. Talking about growing out of teens, as we've already heard, growing out of ADHD, you do, as the brain matures, find that some of the symptoms, ADHD is always going to be there. Some children, as their brain matures, you're going to see less of the symptoms and it's going to become more manageable. What sometimes happens, though, if you have a look at children in the school system, as a child progresses through school, it becomes more open. There's more responsibility put on the child or the teenager, and that is where you sometimes start seeing evidence of ADHD problems.
Right, is that why people only get diagnosed later in their lives?
Sometimes they are diagnosed later. As with adults, it very often starts around the complications as opposed to the typical ADHD, issues that you find in younger children.
Right. And I mean, obviously, because now there's added responsibility, it only comes out when there's a crisis. Do you find that that's when it's kind of identified in adults?
Okay. From a teacher, and I've spent many years as a high school teacher in the classroom, what you start seeing with some of these learners are that they do not do their homework. So when the child is young, the teacher checks, you've got all these checks and balances that occur.
Yeah.
But as they go through the grades, as they get to high school, as they start going through high school, there's more responsibility put on them. No one's checking homework, diaries, that things are written down. And you start to see the disorganization. These learners are not actually doing their work. They're forgetting things. The books are always at home. Sometimes they're having issues with teachers or other students. So there's a whole lot of stuff that tends to start happening.
Right.
And then you obviously need to look deeper.
How can a parent create an environment that supports a learner that's struggling with ADHD?
I think the most important thing is that there has to start to be a transference at some level of responsibility. As a child, generally the ADHD is going to be managed by your teachers, by the parent, and the child copes. But as you get older, there has to be a transference of that responsibility. So working with a specialist in ADHD who works with teens, learning coping mechanisms, medication, if the person's on medication, and you see it at school, you know, you'll hear comments like, oh, someone's definitely not taking their medication at the moment because the behavior's changed. It's to try and find that midpoint where the child is taking on more and more responsibility for his own management of the condition, so that by the time he becomes an adult, it's been transferred.
Do we find that teenagers who aren't diagnosed with ADHD have a bigger propensity towards addiction and certain habits?
You know what, if you look at teenagers, basically, and you look at brain maturity, there are more risky behaviors. But very often, if you look at the continuum of risky behaviors, your ADHD children tend to be just that much more risky. So once again, it's important to have it properly diagnosed. You also get depression in teens, and very often, if you look at ADHD as an adult, you hear children or teenagers talking about feeling sad, being depressed, not coping, or anxiety, because very often ADHD and school and trying to manage all the stuff that you really don't know how to manage because it just ain't working for you and your brain isn't wired that way, things start falling apart a bit, and they're aware it's falling apart, but they don't know how to fix it.
And do children or teenagers and adults struggle with tertiary? Like,
yes,
people who have ADHD find it more difficult to get through tertiary?
You know what I see a lot of in my own practice is that I have students that have already started their tertiary. And once again, once you get into a tertiary environment, you're basically on your own. You have to self-manage. You have to know where to go. You have to know when tests are. You have to know what your timetable says. You are basically on your own. There is no one telling you what to do or how to do it. And that is where the problems really start with these people, because they don't know how to manage. They try their best, but it's forgotten this. I've lost my book, I've done this. So what I see is very often is when they've started to fail. They don't attend class because maybe they've forgotten, they haven't done very well in a test because they actually forgot that the test was going to be written, or they haven't studied. Or the other thing is there's just so much social life that they've been pulled into that, and they can't balance.
Right. Does ADHD affect people relationally? Like, are there habits that happen in a relationship if I'm with somebody who has ADHD that I'm prone to see?
Well, if I look at what I see a lot of, you almost, all teens, for example, are going to push the boundaries.
Yeah.
And while parents, it's very important that parents allow their teens a bit more freedom and it's age appropriate, what happens with the ADHD student and teenager is that they want that space. The parent knows that they can't cope with that space, and so you get more and more conflict. So you often get a lot of frustration. So very often in ADHD, teenagers and young adolescents or young adults living at home, you start to see a lot of conflict with parents, and then that also obviously affects things like schooling or continuing with varsity. Sometimes with their friends too, they get frustrated, they don't understand, and sometimes the group of friends they end up with are not the ones you really want them to be with because they're on the fringes and not the kids that are studying hard academically.
Wow, that's so insightful. Thank you so much, Dawn,
Not
for
at
all the
all.
information. If you have any more questions for our experts, pop over to our Facebook page at Afternoon Express or tweet us at Afternoon Chat, #Afternoon Express. Danilo.
Indeed, yeah. We're continuing with this conversation a little bit later on with our experts, and I'm really excited to have this chat because as somebody who suffers from ADD, it really is something that we all need to be aware of and understand more. It's become a sort of hype in society. Now, as you know by now, the brand new season of Win at Home will be hosted right here on Afternoon Express. From May, every day, we will dedicate a portion of the show to the progress of the young designers as they battle it out to design and create a dream home. And you, the viewer, stand a chance to win one of 3 luxurious apartments. Remember that applications are still open to young designers, in fact. This is honestly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could kickstart a long and successful career. So make sure you apply. Here's how. Win at Home, South Africa's premier design and decor reality show is back. And we're proud to announce that the highly anticipated 3rd season will be hosted from the Afternoon Express loft. Are you a passionate and qualified designer with less than 5 years work experience with a hunger to make it big? Then this is your chance. You could be one of 3 designers who will turn 3 white box apartments into haute couture homes on a prestigious lifestyle estate in the Cape Winelands. You could win a cash prize and become the next big name in South African interior design. Log on to afternoonexpress.co.za now. Click on Win at Home and fill out the application form. Send us your design portfolio and you could be one of the 3 design contestants who showcase their talent to South Africa. Applications close on the 11th of April, so apply now. T's and C's apply and are available on our website. That's Win at Home coming soon to Afternoon Express, weekdays at 4 p.m. Find it on 3.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. Now, we've learned so much today about ADHD, but can it be clinically cured or treated? We're back with ADHD expert and author Helena Bester to learn what options are available to us. Thank you for being with us, Helena. Now, firstly, can ADHD be cured, or is it just best to live with it and treat it?
It can be treated. A natural process is one that normally adults have developed many coping skills and the symptoms are more severe, but it's important also to see what the severity of the symptoms are and also if it causes any discomfort. And if it causes discomfort, then it ought to be treated, yes.
Let's look at some treatment options for children. I mean, there's Ritalin, there's Concerta, there's so many things. Is it good for a child to be that medicated? And what are the side effects? I mean, what happens to a child that's on that amount of medication?
I think probably all the viewers will have opinions on this topic. Truth be told, that because Ritalin has been researched very, very well. The stimulant medications, methylphenidate, there's no difference between Ritalin and Concerta, exactly the same active ingredient. And then there is Strattera. But it's been publicized so widely and a lot of wrong information has been given through. So parents have the concern that a child will develop addiction because of the stimulant medication. What actually happens is that it's the ADHD that's the problem to begin with. So we have a higher incidence of addiction amongst untreated ADHD people than what we have of treated ADHD people. Is it good for a person? Always important to weigh and determine is the child's self-esteem being affected, and to monitor carefully if he is placed on medication, and to have that process properly monitored from the school and from the home environment to then ascertain whether this treatment is suitable for the child. And then, of course, there are other treatments as well.
I just watched this documentary actually recently, and I found it so terrifying because it focused on a group of people in the UK that, in fact, instead of using other stimulants like street drugs like cocaine or whatever else they were using Ritalin to kind of give themselves a high. And I thought, oh my goodness, people give that to children. I mean, that's quite. I saw that and I panicked a little bit.
Actually. Such a study has been done where it was quite an upsetting study where drug addicts were given free access to any drug of their choice. And none of them chose the methylphenidate because it does not, the after effect is not pleasant.
Which is the methylphenidate?
The Ritalin and the
Okay.
Concerta.
Okay.
Yes, that's the active ingredient in Ritalin. The problem with when people are addicted and they can't get hold of anything else, they go to desperate measures and they would crush it and inject it, and then we hear the terrible stories that happens. But when it is given responsibly at the correct dosages and prescribed responsibly, then we don't have that problem. But under students, we also have an interesting situation where those that have the script and have the diagnosis, they go and collect the script every month, and then they stash this medication, and then they sell it during exam times to all of their friends for 50 Rand a tablet to improve their concentration ability.
Is there an alternative type of healing or medication?
Yes, I do like the term healing very much because it involves so much more than just a chemical process. There is a worldwide shift happening away from chemistry and more towards a holistic approach and towards circuitry, which is the main practice in my practice. Main therapy is neurotherapy, where one then addresses the problem in the brain, where you basically go and organize the disorganized brain. So that is now really a viable alternative, and through the decades I have considered and searched for many viable alternatives. And as Dr. Schoeman also mentioned earlier, important that one will also look at life skills and lifestyle and assisting in
Lifestyle
with the general
management.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much for coming and chatting to us today. Wow, this has been completely fascinating. And if you've got anything to add and would like to contribute to our conversation, all you need to do is Facebook us. Go and visit our Facebook page, Afternoon Express, and of course our Twitter page @Afternoon Chat using the official hashtag Afternoon Express. I think over to you, Danilo.
Indeed. One thing that I did learn about sort of being medicated while you were ADD or ADHD in school is a big effect that it had on your appetite. And so I'm very excited that today on the show we're making something that looks that is very healthy for you, but looks a little slightly different and is very, very delicious. Because I think to encourage young kids who are on sort of Concertas and Ritalins to eat the right types of foods and to keep their diet going prevents them from losing all that weight from their lack of diet. So
even if they don't have ADD, it's still a great dish, just for kids in general. No,
it's true. Clem, I'm not saying your food is only for kids who have ADD. I'm saying that it looks delicious and it's healthy for you too. So well done is what I'm saying. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so all that's left to make is our no-mato sauce, right?
Okay, so we've spoken about why it's called a no-mato sauce, because we're not using tomato in the sauce, and that means we don't need to add that extra sugar.
Yes.
So we're serving our chips with this amazing, I like it chunky, so I want to call it a sauce, but it's a bit of a dip. Okay.
Okay.
So
it's
it's got
something just to flavor your chickpea.
but it's absolutely delicious. So we're going to go with onions. Onions is the start of any good sauce. I mean, they add such an amazing flavor.
Totally.
Onto our roasting pan. Celery, just add the whole stalks. I'm not even going to bother. Garlic. Look at you arranging it all beautifully.
No, I like the way that you cook because, I mean, it's one of those things people always at home watch these chefs on TV doing the drizzling and the thing, and everyone's like, ugh, that's not my cup of tea.
And it's going to get blended anyway.
Yes, exactly. And also, when you chew it up and swallow it, you know what happens down there, right?
No, I don't.
It just mushes up all together, okay? That's what happens, Clem.
Okay, so carrots, again, that's just going to build on flavor.
Yes, and adds a bit of colour.
It does. Well, actually, no. Because once the beetroot gets blended up, everything becomes
overpowers
purple.
everything.
So let's get more carrot in there. And then the star of the sauce, the beetroot. Yes. I've just peeled it. You don't really have to.
Yeah. What's fascinating, I find, is you've got lots more other vegetables than you do beetroot, but it's called, like, the beetroot sauce, basically. So I find that interesting. It's just because the colorant itself is just so overpowering.
I think I was supposed to add less onion in that.
So we're just winging it. Okay, that's fine. And then I guess this goes into the oven.
It does, but a little drizzle of olive oil first.
And seasoning.
A little bit, and a little bit of salt and pepper. And it's going to go into the oven, ding, 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 ding. And then it comes out looking like...
It's one of those, like...
Done. Okay, so these
done.
are vegetables that have roasted. You can see it's got quite a lot of char in it, and that's important because that brings out that natural sugar, the flavor that's in there.
Okay.
Very important.
Good tip, actually. Thank you.
It is. But vegetables in general, like we've spoken about onions so many times, that if you're not going to cook them down, you're going to have that bitterness. By cooking them down, you bring all that natural sweetness.
through.
Again, that's where some of the sweetness is going to come from the onions, the celery, the carrots, and the beetroot.
Clem, you're a wise old owl, man.
I know,
you're so
man.
wise. So...
compliments. He'll be paid after the show.
Yeah. Under the table.
I'm just going to use my hands right now. I think that's going to be the best.
So try and channel bowls into this, like the bane of everyone's existence in the kitchen. Try and pour something from one bowl into some other bowl that's smaller. I promise you, it's like children always make a mess of that.
And me.
And
so,
me, yeah.
tip is to blend the vegetables while they're still hot. That way you get a nice smooth consistency.
Yes. Cool.
So we can add, okay, we've added salt already, so that's fine. I'm going to do a little bit of cumin.
Cumin.
Because that nice earthy flavor brings out so much other flavors in the vegetables. And some smoked paprika.
Yum. And that'll, one, add to the flavor, but two, also give it a nice smokiness, which I like.
Absolutely. And that's just some, okay, let's see. Ooh, I nearly skipped this. Ooh. Little, this is white wine vinegar. A little bit in there.
And that's obviously because you know all tomato sauces and stuff have got a very sort of vinegary, tart flavour to them.
Balanced.
And the
Absolutely.
sweet. So this is what you're doing
So
there.
I'm going to blend. While I'm blending, will you pop the chips into the plate for me?
Sure.
Make sure you get everything down there.
There's no particular way to do this, I guess. I'm just kind of having
Have I
some
ever
fun.
given you a job to do it like Danilo? Do it just like that.
Don't ever give me a job to do styling, and that's not my forte. I'm just going to say thanks for putting this bowl so far away from me. Appreciate you, man.
I'm just going to pour the sauce back into the bowl that the vegetables came out of in the first time.
There we go. I made a little space
How's
there
it
for
looking?
you.
How's it looking?
Looking amazing. So can I put this there in the meantime?
You can, but can we just add a little bit of yogurt first?
Okay. Yogurt?
Why not?
Just to soften all the flavors there.
Absolutely, and just to bring everything together, yes.
While he does that, if you guys want to go to our website, afternoonexpress.co.za, you can get it on your mobile phone, on your computer, wherever you are. Or, like I said, to all of our grandmothers out there, if you are wanting to go and get this recipe, get your grandson or granddaughter to print it out for you and get the shopping list too. It's the best way to get all the recipes we make right here on the show on Afternoon Express, and this one is live right now. After the break, we're back with our experts chatting ADHD, and we'll be reading your questions, so stay right where you are. Ooh, bunny rabbit.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express. Now, today is all about ADHD in both children as well as adults who are often overlooked. We're back with our experts, Helena, Renate, and Dawn. Welcome back.
I've really enjoyed this chat with you guys because I've learned a lot. I mean, I'm ADD, and I've really taken a lot from what you guys were saying.
Jeez, we all ADD.
We're all ADHD.
But it's funny because a lot of people have mentioned it. Like, it seems to be this trend. Everyone wants to be ADD nowadays because it's like there's so much going on social media all around. But I think people we haven't mentioned today.
Everyone wants to be ADHD.
Well, it seems to be like everyone said, oh, you got ADD because you can't focus for 2 seconds. But I mean, like, that's not necessarily the right symptoms. But what is the difference between ADD and ADHD?
I think you gave yourself away diagnostically. One thing is all the older people there, which is technologically very informed, will frown at your impulsivity for dissing the poor omas not being technologically informed.
Thank you.
I think diagnostically we need to be careful. Firstly, if something doesn't impair your functioning, it's not a disorder.
Yeah.
So just struggling with something because of a certain environment or a certain day doesn't make it a disorder. So there needs to be functional impairment across different aspects of your life. ADHD is not an academic problem. It's social impairment, etc., etc. The second thing, ADD is a casual term. The real correct terminology is ADHD, and then we would say it's inattentive type or hyperactive type or combined type. So actually there's nothing like ADD. It's ADHD, inattentive type or ADHD.
So just to be safe, he has both.
I'm not hyperactive.
So, Helena, something that I wanted to chat to you something a little bit earlier is about diet. So we were speaking about there's a whole lot of different kinds of medication and different types of healing that you can do. But what about diet? I mean, is that something that can affect your behaviour as well?
It does definitely affect one's behavior. I think all of us know that we have this slump later in the morning and late in the afternoon. So what we eat definitely affects us. But also important that we will remember that incorrect diet cannot cause ADHD. It can, however, emphasize many of the symptoms.
Yeah.
And where the focus has been in the past a lot on avoiding sugary foods, it has shifted slightly that one should avoid preservatives and flavorants. Artificial sweeteners appear to be worse than actual sugary food. And there are individual reactions to different foodstuffs. So careful observation and monitoring is important to determine, you know, if one looks at at Ethan that is already very hyperactive and active all the time, and when he attends a party, then you may have to go and chase him in the clouds somewhere after all of the cake and so on.
Exactly. I love it because you mentioned Omar, right? We got a tweet from the real Opa.
The real Opa. And the question is ADHD genetically inherited?
Yes. It's one of the most heritable conditions that we do have, with roughly 80% of cases being hereditary. So mum or dad or a first-rank sibling, so brother or sister may have it. But there is also enough data to show that there is also environmental aspects, especially problems during pregnancy or illness during pregnancy, substances during pregnancy, and also being born prematurely.
A little birdie told me that all ADHD people end up in the entertainment industry.
No.
It's a good choice, though.
Ronaldo Esu sent us a message that says, my son is 10 and was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 8. There are some days that he asks for medication, but there are days that he'll cope without any medication. Will he eventually outgrow it someday, the medication? No
Quick answer.
like
We're
this.
about to finish the show.
He will not outgrow it, unfortunately not. He can develop certain skills. And this fluctuating performance is a very typical ADHD thing as well. But if one makes this important big decision to have a child on medication and to medicate him, it would be better not to give it and skip it. People are concerned about the addiction issue, and that kicks in when you give and skip and give
Hey,
and
but
skip.
I weaned myself off the medication because eventually it was affecting my diet, my mood, etc. So it's all up to the personalities to go and visit their practices and their psychiatrists, etc. to make sure that the right medication is given, I think.
Well,
time
that's
is
it
up,
for today.
unfortunately.
Thank you so much for coming through. Until tomorrow, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Have a happy afternoon. Happy
Let's
evening. Yes, let's please dish.
There we go.
Oh, Danilo, this is wonderful.
Coming up tomorrow on Afternoon Express, we're joined by Nigerian actress Esosa E. We take a look at the latest fashion from designer Tsotetsi KL. And in observation of World Health Day, we take a look at the nutritional value of eating raw foods.
Nada. Feel Good production.
Hi YouTubers, thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to us. Join the Afternoon Express family by subscribing to our channel right here. And we'll keep you up to date with all our recipes and of course our fabulous episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment and share this video. We do love it when you express yourself.